agree. Invincible is a lot of fun. It's definitely worth picking up.
All right, so for the next number of weeks here, probably a fair number of weeks because there's a lot of categories, you are going to be doing a service all of the Comics Corner listeners.
I am starting a new segment called Reading the Eisners. The 2011 Eisner Award nominees were announced last week.
Just quickly, for those who may not already know, what are the Eisners?
They're the annual awards, big awards for comics, the comic industry. They are held in conjunction with Comic-Con. It's a big deal. So anyway, the nominees were announced last week, and I thought, because I like to discover new things to read and expand my reading pool, that it would be fun to try and read all of the nominated works. And since we're doing this podcast, to report back to everybody on my impressions and my pick for each category.
Sounds good to me. And to add to that, what she has done also, so you know that why I'm talking about some of them and not about others, is she's reading them all, but then she's sort of earmarking specific ones that she, has told me.
Yeah, and you're going to read the best, my pick for each category. So anyway,
so you out there in podcast land, feel free to do the same thing. Feel free to jump on in.
I would love to hear your opinions. If you agree with me, disagree, I'd love to have a discussion on these nominees and what your thoughts are for who would be the winner for each category. So I started with best single issue or one shot. There's actually the best short story category as well, but I was not able to find all of the issues. There's a couple that I need to order the books that they're in, so it'll be a while before I am able to do those. But anyway, I did read the nominees for best single issue or one shot. I'll just list them quickly, and then on our website we'll post the more in-depth info and links to all of them. But it was The Cape by Joe Hill and Jason, I'm so going to mispronounce this, I'm sorry, Ciaramella, published by IDW. Fables 100 by Bill Willingham, Mark Buckingham, and others, published by Vertigo. Hellboy, Double Feature of Evil by Mike Mignola and Richard Corbin, Dark Horse. Lock and Key, Keys to the Kingdom #1 by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez, published by IDW. And Unknown Soldier #21 by Joshua Dysart and Rick Veitch, published by Vertigo. So those were the nominees.
Okay.
I guess what I'll do is I'll give my pick. I guess I can go through briefly.
Yeah, just give a quick synopsis of all of them,
so
and then your picks.
The Cape was a one-shot, so I guess it sounds like it is either planning... I didn't do enough research, I'm sorry, I'll have to look this up, if there was any issues after it.
I think it may be continuing.
It said continuing in 2011. I don't know if that's happened or not yet. Anyway, The Cape was...
not having anything to do with a television series, by the way. We should point that out.
Yeah, that's true. Totally different, its own thing. And written by Joe Hill, who also wrote Lock and Key. The Cape is a dark kind of twist on a superhero origin story, I guess. Does that sound fair? You read it?
I did. That's one of the ones you earmarked for me.
Yeah, and it's great. It actually was my pick for my number one choice until I read one of the other issues that dumped it to second spot. But it was. I did not see the twist coming. I thought it was really creative and well told, and I loved the art. I thought the art was gorgeous.
I agree. I loved the art. I also think it was a really good twist. I did see it coming just because there were sort of, storytelling foreshadowing, just sort of tropes that I just. First of all, because you had already told me there was a twist, so I was already in the mindset of something is going to be a twist. But that didn't make it suck for me. I certainly still enjoyed it.
Yep, and then the next one was Fables 100. That was their 100th issue. I have not read any of the Fables series. I probably would have meant more to me if I had read issues 1 through 99. But as it stood on its own fine. It was a big supersized issue. It was 100 pages. It had a board game and a puppet show and question and answer and a prose story, and it had a whole bunch of stuff. The main story was really cool. I really enjoyed it. It was basically a battle between kind of the good witch and the bad witch, and it was really creative, gorgeous art, a lot of fun constructs and things that they used to try and defeat each other, and very, very creative. So really an interesting read. Hellboy Double Future of Evil. Hellboy is, always fun.
Hellboy rocks.
This one's a little bit different because it's not illustrated by Mike Mignola. It's illustrated by Richard Corbin, who I thought did a great job. His illustrations was awesome. I believe it was colored by Dave Stewart, who is one of my favorite colorists. I
loved him in the Eurythmics. Oh, sorry.
Different Dave Stewart. I love the way he uses color and texture. It was gorgeous. The story was fun. It was framed as a double feature of two movies featuring Hellboy that were being played in this, really awesome, old, decaying, decrepit movie theater with an audience of zombie corpse things. So it was really just dark and fun and twisted and had some very amusing lines and very fun visuals. It was really cool. Lock and Key Keys to the Kingdom #1. I've actually started to read Lock and Key. I'll review that in another podcast. This one was interesting. I enjoyed the storytelling device. I appreciated the storytelling device that they were trying to use, where to sort of show changes in perspective, he used two different art styles that changed from a more like cartoony art style when it was from the perspective of the younger boy to a more like realistic, standard kind of comic book looking art style when it was the teenagers. It wasn't one that really stuck with me. But it was interesting, and it was definitely well told, and the art was creative, that's for sure. And then the one that is actually my pick for this category as the winner, which was Unknown Soldier #21, called A Gun in Africa. And it was a standalone issue. Unknown Soldier is a series that sadly I learned was canceled at issue 25, so it is now done. But this issue was a pretty much standalone issue. And it's brilliant. I really was blown away, which is
pun intended.
Pun intended, yeah. I don't want to give too much away, but I don't think this is a spoiler, that it is a story about, Civil War and strife in Africa as told through the perspective of a Kalashnikov gun. And to me, when it starts and it's talking with Mikhail Kalashnikov, who was the creator of the gun, and then when it switched to the perspective of the gun, I was just like, holy shit, that's amazing. And it was just gripping, it was just this incredible, I thought, example of just how comics can be so powerful, that, you had, the art was really vibrant and really bold, and in some cases pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was very brutal. Well,
because it's about war.
It's about guns,
war and guns, are brutal. But it just, and using the gun as the narrative device, you might hear it described and think, well, that sounds cheesy. But it was it was done so well, and it was so provoking, and just really gave you a sense of, you know, these war-torn areas in Africa and their history, and how, you know, how guns have become such a ubiquitous part of not just that part of the world in their lives, but really all over, you know. But it was amazing. I think everyone should read it. And I thought it was a really incredible and powerful piece that really, to me, showed how comics can be such a powerful storytelling medium.
I agree. It was a great example of using sequential art to tell a story, and I do think that was a great version of it. I would also say one of the things I like, and one of the things we don't think about, is these people who create guns, assuming they're not simply amoral sons of bitches, they normally have a reason,
Sure.
a philosophy behind them. And so you have Kalishnikov in this story basically being considered sort of an idealist, which is the Russian sort of legend of who he was. And then you have the gun, his son, basically, taking on that philosophy. And so it's not just an amoral, narrative of what's going on, but this gun has an opinion of how it's being used, and it's not cheesy, it's not overplayed, it's not,
and
it's very, very potent.
I think there was one moment. This isn't really giving anything away, but that was so powerful because it's something that we don't really think of. At least I know I don't in wars. You know, that we always think that our side, we're the ones in the right. We're the ones fighting. Well, some of our current wars accepted, but in general, in wars, you know, the side you're on, you always think that you're the one in the right. You're the one fighting for your freedom and your idealistic values. But there's a line in there where the gun is talking about its current owner is fighting for the, on one side of this war for control in Africa and in Somalia. And
which is Africa.
Yeah, I know, but I just didn't want to make it seem like this
sure.
thing encompassed the entire continent because,
the Great War
made up of different countries. But, and saying that, this fighter, thought that he was fighting for freedom and his country and these idealistic values. And then there's just a moment where he says, and it's like, to paraphrase, and the people we killed on the other side were fighting for the same thing, and it's like, you don't always think about that, we're, no matter how strongly you believe that you're fighting for the right reasons, the people on the other side feel just as strongly about their cause. It's not to say who's right or who's wrong, but, that you have both sides think that they're fighting for the great cause.
Absolutely.
Just those causes are different. So anyway, yeah, I hope you all out there enjoy this series. I will try to continue with a category, a podcast until we get into like the graphic novel, longer publications.
Then you'll just do a couple of them. Maybe
yeah, it'll be spread out
podcast.
over a couple of weeks.
Sure.
Well, we're coming up on an hour, so I think this is probably a good place to wrap it up.
So thank you for listening. We hope that you've enjoyed us babbling about various comics and graphic novels. And as we've said in every podcast and said at the beginning of this one, please, give us comments and ratings on iTunes, on our website, on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. And we have been listening when people have been emailing us with suggestions. We've gotten suggestions for more independent stuff, more individual issues, and not just collections and graphic novels and stuff. And we do listen, we do pay attention, and we thank you all for commenting and for paying attention for listening. We hope that we continue being entertaining.
Yes, and check us out on the web at comicscornerpodcast.com, on Twitter at Comics Podcast, on Facebook at